Today's class is the financial aid forms class, and what we're going to be talking about is, of course, the financial aid forms. So everybody should have a booklet, and for those of you that are watching it online, you can click on the PDF and download a booklet. Okay, so the first thing that we want to talk about is the cost of attendance, and when we talk about the cost of attendance, it encompasses the entire sticker price of the college: tuition, room and board, meal ticket, lab fees. Everything all together is the total cost of attendance. Okay. So that's, again, tuition fees, room and board, meal plan, books, lab fees, supplies, travel expenses, other fees, etc. Okay. While all of these are not direct costs, such as travel, they all are calculated together into the total cost of attendance. And financial aid is calculated off of the total cost of attendance. So it's actually good that they're incorporating miscellaneous and travel costs, because that kind of inflates the cost of college, and then they're going to base your financial aid off of that number. Okay? And the COA, the cost of attendance, is always for one full year, not a semester or not for 4 years, but for one full year. Okay? So in-state schools in Arizona are now topping $25,000 per year. Out-of-state state schools can be in excess of $45,000, and private colleges can be in excess of $65,000 for 1 year. So, for example, Grand Canyon University has a sticker price of $32,900. Johns Hopkins University has a sticker price of $57,820. Okay? To really scare yourself, do this. Go to the college's website, and in the search window you can type in cost of attendance. It'll bring you to that page. You add all of those costs together, then multiply that times 4 years, then multiply it again times the number of kids you've got, times 2 kids, 3 kids, etc. Okay? And that's enough to scare anybody. Now, I've had some families ask me, well, why are these private colleges charging so much? Well, one of the primary reasons is simply because they can. Okay, and there is a thought process that more expensive means better. Okay, so there are a handful of extremely wealthy parents who will pay the full fare. And those that pay full fare will compensate for those who get it at a discount, okay? Which is what I'm hoping to help you guys out with today. Okay? So, who should apply for aid? Everyone. All. Okay? All means all, and that's all means. Okay? So, you've probably heard this statement before, or maybe you might even be thinking it. I probably won't qualify for aid because of my family's finances are so high, so should I submit the FAFSA anyway? Yes. Even though you think you may not qualify for aid, in some situations you will qualify for need-based aid. And sometimes here's the other side of the coin, is that financial aid officers at colleges ultimately have the ultimate authority to grant aid or to decline it. And I have seen some financial aid officers at some colleges offer need-based aid to a family who really shouldn't have qualified for it. Okay, so do fill out the FAFSA form and that. And then the other side of the coin is, if God forbid anything were to happen to your family's finances, because you've already got it filed, you can go back in there and amend it and talk with the college financial aid department and see if they'll adjust it or correct it or so. Okay? All right. The other reason why we want to submit the FAFSA form and the other financial aid forms is because some merit scholarships are only given out if the FAFSA has been submitted. Now if you're in a family situation where you have a very high income and you're not going to qualify for need-based aid, at some colleges they still want to see you submit the financial aid forms regardless, and then they're going to grant the merit aid after that. Okay, and they're going to grant that merit aid regardless if you make a $200,000 or $200 million. Okay. All right. So when should you apply? In January of your senior year of high school. And the first time that you can fill it out is January 1st. And I don't recommend filling it out the first few days, because there's still, and there's several ways you can fill out the form. You can do a hard copy or you can do electronic copy, and I do recommend doing it electronically. And if you do fill it out electronically, sometime around the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th or so, somewhere in that time frame, they're still adjusting the website, making corrections and stuff. So I've had families who have submitted the FAFSA form on the 1st or 2nd, and then a few days later they get an email, your FAFSA has been updated and corrected. And they're like, what? I haven't even touched it. Okay, so they're updating the software and all that stuff. So wait a few days, usually around the 10th or the 15th or the middle of the month, and then get that form submitted. Okay. And I've also seen very high traffic during the first few days. So you may be trying to log on and it may time you out, or you may not be able to log in or so. Hopefully they'll correct that for this year. Okay. You should apply in November of your senior year if your students has applied under early decision with the CSS Profile financial aid form. We'll talk about what that form is. And that's only for early decision if the college requires you to, if you have applied under early decision and if that college requires you to submit the financial aid forms before that time frame or by that time frame. I don't recommend applying early decision. Okay. And basically we want to get our applications in well before any deadlines, so check your deadlines, check the form deadlines and all that stuff. So some deadlines are as late as June of the freshman year in college. Okay? Now if you wait until June after your kids finish their first year of college to file for that particular year, and you can do that, there's probably not going to be any funds left over. Okay. When should you apply? Every year the student is in college. So there are two financial aid forms. The first one's called the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, and the second one's called the CSS Profile. There's a third financial aid form, and that's the college's own proprietary financial aid form. And when you submit your application for admission, they'll typically let you know, we want this CSS Profile, or we have our own proprietary form. And that every college is going to require the FAFSA. Some colleges will require the FAFSA and the CSS Profile. Some will say we want the FAFSA and their own proprietary form. So we've got to figure out and find out exactly which forms each college wants. Okay? So again, there's two ways to apply, hard copy and online. And I do recommend going online because it's faster and seamless that way. If you go to Google and type in FAFSA, the very first one that pops up is FAFSA.com. And don't go to that website. Cross that one off of your list, because that website has literally tricked thousands of families. And these families have gone to that website, and it asks the same questions that are on FAFSA.ed.gov. But the last question that it asks is, would you like us to submit this on your behalf? What's your credit card number? Okay, so it's like and they charge you $75 or $100 or something to do that. Where if you go to FAFSA's website, FAFSA.ed.gov, there is no charge to do that. Okay. So the second one is the CSS Profile, and that can be found on profileonline.collegeboard.org. Okay, the CSS Profile is going to ask all the same questions that are on the FAFSA, and then it will ask some additional questions as well. One of the primary differences between the CSS Profile and the FAFSA is there is a fee to file the profile, and it's currently for the 2012-13 school year. It's currently $25 for the first school and $16 for each additional school. Okay. So your student may have 1 or 2 profile schools on their list, or they may have none at all. So we've got to find out if your student's list of colleges does contain a CSS profile school. Okay. Okay. One way you can find out is you can go to College Board's website, collegeboard.org, and type in the name of the school, click on the Paying tab, and then click on How to Apply for Financial Aid, and it'll state in there, we want the FAFSA, we want the CSS profile with a farm supplement and whatever supplements, blah, blah, blah. Okay? All right. So here's a brief overview of the need-based aid formula. It's cost of attendance minus EFC equals need. And EFC is your expected family contribution. The EFC is a number calculated from the federal financial aid formula, and it's an amount that the federal government expects or thinks that the family can pay for college for 1 year. And that's going to be based on the family's earnings, their net assets, savings, the size of the family, the number of students in college, and the age of the oldest parent. This number determines need-based aid. And it's kind of, here's a way to look at the EFC, is it's similar to your deductible with car insurance. So God forbid you were to get in a car accident, before the insurance company gives you any money to fix your car, you've got to come up with that deductible first. Okay? So that's kind of how the EFC is with need-based aid. Now if your student receives a merit aid scholarship, and it is that merit aid scholarship is going to be greater than your greater than how can I say this? If the merit scholarship is a sizable amount, and that merit scholarship is not based on your EFC number, you will receive that anyway. Okay, that would be for a merit scholarship. So the EFC will not and should not affect merit scholarships. So here's an example. So in this example here, I'm saying that the cost of attendance is $30,000, and that's again for 1 year. And this family's EFC is $10,000. We have a need of $20,000. Okay. So if the college only meets 75% of the need, then there's a gap. So so we qualified for 20,000, but they're going to only meet 75% of that. And there's some colleges that will meet 100% of your need, and some 0, and some in between. This is just my example in this situation. So if this school meets 75% of your need, they're going to give that student $15,000 in aid. We subtract that from the 20,000, that leaves us with 5,000 of unmet need. And that 5,000 would either be rolled into the EFC, or it could be rolled into some form of loan or something. Okay? If you want to find out more about that, in the back of the book is a list of websites, and you can go to the government's website, nces.ed.gov/college navigator, and that will give you percentages of what percentage of need all these colleges meet and stuff. Okay. There's some other things that you can do to find out what your EFC is. There's a net price calculator on all of the colleges' websites. That was mandated by the federal government, and all the colleges needed to put a net price calculator on their website by 2011. So now it's 2012. Every college should have that on there, and for the net price calculators, they're not that great. They'll give you kind of a rough estimate, and typically they don't ask very many questions. There might be like 6 or 7 questions or so, where the FAFSA has 90 to 100 different questions that all can calculate out your EFC number. So this is a good starting point, but don't base everything off of the net price calculator. Some other websites you can go to calculate out your EFC is FAFSA forecaster.ed.gov, FinAid, collegeboard.org/calculators, and collegeboard.org also has a EFC calculator. Okay. While these are good starting points, they're not 100% accurate. 100% accuracy comes in March or April of your student's senior year, and that's when the award letters are sent out. And that award letter is going to state, here's what our cost of attendance is, here's how much we're giving you in scholarships, grants, and bottom line is, this is what your cost is going to be. Okay. So even these may not be 100%, as in some situations you can renegotiate the aid package. We're not going to talk about that here, but we will be covering that in the spring boot camp, which will be in February or so. Okay. So what will we need for the financial aid forms? We're going to need a PIN number. We're going to need your Social Security numbers for both parent and students. We're going to need W-2 forms for both parent and student if the student is employed. Child support received, workers' compensation, driver's license, etc. And that. And these documents are going to be needed when you fill out the FAFSA and the CSS Profile financial aid forms. So when you come into my office and I tell you I need all these forms, well, it's not because I want them. It's because these financial aid forms do want all that information. Okay? All right. So there's two different types of formulas. One's called the federal methodology, and that's from the FAFSA. The second one is called the institutional methodology, and that's from the CSS Profile. And in some situations, the EFC might be different depending on your family's financial situation, whether you have businesses, whether you're W-2 employees, or whether you have different types of assets or so. In some situations, it's prudent to apply to a CSS Profile school, and in some situations, it's not. Anyway, so every college requires the FAFSA form. Some colleges require the CSS Profile in addition to the FAFSA form, and some colleges have their own proprietary financial aid forms in addition to the FAFSA. Okay? If any of these forms are missing or neglected, then the student could be taken out of the runnings for getting any need-based aid. All right, we talked about that already, so let's just continue. The PIN is a 4-digit number that is used in combination with your Social Security number and your name and your date of birth. And when you go to either FAFSA or pin.ed.gov to create a PIN, it will link your information that you put in there with the Social Security's website and double check and verify that. So if you have a last name that is hyphenated, two names that's hyphenated or something like that, or if there's an incorrect spelling on your Social Security card, you want to check all of those things before you actually file. So that when you do file the FAFSA form, everything will just go through smoothly and that. Okay? The PIN is used to electronically sign the FAFSA form, as well as sign for federal student loans and the Parent Plus loan. Okay? So when you file the FAFSA form, you're going to need two PIN numbers, one for the student and one for either mom or dad. So if you're married, you don't have to create two PINs for mom and dad. You can just create one PIN in that situation. If you're divorced or filing as a single parent, then of course it would be whoever that one parent is. So they're going to need two PINs to file. Okay, and the things that you're going to need to file and create a PIN number is you're going to need your Social Security numbers, your date of birth, your address, your home address, etc. And you can create a custom PIN number, or you can have it generated in that. Okay. Yeah, I said that. Okay. After the PIN has been filed, it can take up to 2 weeks to verify. It usually takes about 72 hours. So if there is some discrepancy with it and it cannot verify it with Social Security Administration's website, you'll get an email back that says your PIN cannot be verified. Okay. And if that's the case, then you got to go in and figure out what it is that's incorrect and then correct that. Okay. If everything is correct, again, it usually takes about 72 hours or so. After the FAFSA has been submitted online, you'll receive an email or a letter stating that it has been successfully submitted, and there will be a link to the Student Aid Report, the SAR. And the Student Aid Report is a form that has all the information that you've put onto the FAFSA. And I double check that to make sure that everything is correct and accurate. Okay. Student Aid Report is a document you'll receive after FAFSA is processed. And your SAR will contain your expected family contribution, your EFC, which measures your family's financial strength and is used to determine your eligibility for federal student aid. Okay. Your school will use this number to determine how much financial aid you are eligible for, and blah blah. Yeah. Okay. We already said that. Okay.